Hey there, Dr. Callahan here for week 2, Tuesday for Calculus AB. Go ahead and take a moment to take a look at the 3 questions for warm-up. Question number 1 says, if given $10,000, what would you do with the money right now? And also, if you have not given me your email yet, make sure you guys do that. Number 2, what is your greatest accomplishment? Number 3, find the equation of a line perpendicular to 2x plus 3y equals 6 with point -1 and -3. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at question number 3 on the warm-up. So keyword here is, I know it's perpendicular. So if I have my equation in y-intercept form, I will be able to find the slope if it's parallel. And then if I find that slope, I can just really flip it and put a negative sign to it for the perpendicular slope. But first I need to convert standard form to y-intercept form. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna isolate the y, so I get the y by itself. So I'm gonna have 3y equals, move the 2x over to the right, so it's a negative, plus 6, divide everything by 3, y equals a negative 2 over 3x plus 2. And as you can see here, my slope is going to be, if it's parallel, it will be negative 2 over 3. However, the key word here is perpendicular, so to find the negative reciprocal, which make it a positive 3 over 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and use point slope form, or you can use y-intercept form, and actually it doesn't really matter which one you do. So let's just use y-intercept form to find the equation of the line. So my y here is a negative 3. My slope is a positive 3 over 2. My x is given to me as negative 1 plus b. Go ahead and multiply it out. I want to isolate the b by itself, so I'm going to add the 3 over 2 on both sides, which will cancel that. So my b is equal to negative 3 over 1 plus 3 over 2. Going back to the 3rd grade, we need to have a common denominator. So if a 1 becomes a 3, the numerator becomes a negative 9. So then my b is going to be a negative 6 over, actually, you know what? I don't know why I did that. It should really be a 2. I think I was just looking at the numerator. Sorry about that. So let's go ahead and delete that. Okay, so then if this becomes a 2, that'll be a negative 6, which will give me a negative 3 over 2 as my b. Now that I have my b and I also have my m, I can go ahead and rewrite my equation. That's going to be perpendicular to this. So it is going to be a negative 2 over 3 x plus negative 3 over 2. And that is my equation. You know, I actually just realized I made another mistake, which is so horrible. All right, hold on a second. I just wrote down the wrong slope. It's actually 3 over 2. I was actually looking at the parallel one on top. There we go. Okay. Okay, last time you guys had the following guided notes for Monday. We talked about slopes, different type of slopes, how to use a slope equation, and then we talked about finding the line of an equation. So everything here should be a review. Then I gave you guys this right here, this activity where you're supposed to be matching. I told you started off with A and you go in this order, to G, to C, to R, and then J goes back to A. So if you did that, awesome. Keep your assignments with you. I will be back on Friday and I will be taking that and collecting that from you guys. All right, so today our objective is going to be writing the equation of a line using slope, parallel, perpendicular lines. We're going to talk about long division with polynomials and also trigonometry review. These two here, you will definitely need to review and make sure you know how to do this before you get started with the actual stuff in calculus, because you will need to do this later on. So long division, I do have a Quizlet that is right here. Capital W, capital B, capital X, that does matter when you type that in. If you want to go ahead and try the quizzes, I do have a quizzes on trig identities. And then make sure you guys get started with your Math Excel sections 1.3 for your homework. Remember, all of your homework assignment is always due the following Sunday by 11 p.m. and you should have access to your Math Excel. Now let's take a look at your guided notes for today. If you take a look in the bottom of the right-hand corner, you should have your guided notes, and it looks something like this. So that is a guided note that you should have. And again, on the very bottom corner, I always have the labels of it. So week 2 Tuesday. And then second page of your guided notes is going to be on division. I'm going to go over synthetic and long division. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with today's lesson. Going back to Math Excel, if you take a look at this right here, you do have sections 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and I basically just label it for you guys. So it's really easy to figure out which one's for which. These assignments are due on Sunday by 11 p.m. You can submit it late, but there will be a reduction of 40%, so keep that in mind. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. I also have a video right here that if you're having difficulty catching up with some of the review items, you can watch and do that. I'm just going to jump into synthetic division first before we do anything else. So let's go ahead and start with that. So there are two different ones. You have synthetic division and then also long division. Let's go ahead and do long division first. So you are going to write down 2x cubed minus 7x squared. Notice that you're missing an x, so make sure you put a 0x plus 5. And it has to be in ascending order from the biggest to the smallest exponent. So x minus 3. Then what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself, x times what gives me 2x cubed? And that's going to be a 2x squared. So then you're going to take this and distribute it into both of the binomials here. So 2x squared times x is 2x cubed. Negative 3 times 2x squared is a negative 6x squared. Keep in mind you're going to be subtracting this. So we're going to change the sign from a positive to a negative to a positive. That cancels. Negative 7 plus 6 gives me a negative 1x squared. Bring down the 0x. Next, you ask yourself, x times what number gives me a negative 1x squared? I want to make sure it matches so that way I can cancel it. Our goal is to get it smaller and smaller. That will be a negative 1x. So again, distribute this into the binomial. You have negative 1x squared. Negative 3, negative 1 gives me a positive 3x. When you go ahead and subtract it, remember, you have to distribute that. That becomes a positive. That becomes a negative. So cancels. 0 minus 3x is going to give me a negative 3x. Bring down the 5. X times negative 3x, or actually just negative 3 because I don't need it anymore, is going to give me a negative 3x plus 9. And again, distribute, you're going to have a negative 9, so that's going to be a negative 4. My answer in this case is going to be this part right here. So it is 2x squared minus x minus 3 minus, make sure you put the remainder over the divisor of x minus 3. So there you have it. And if you remember, this right here is going to be the quotient. Here, remainder, and divisor. Let's go ahead and try this with synthetic division. Okay, so with synthetic division, what you're going to do is you're going to just take the coefficient of each of the x's. So I'm going to have 2, negative 7, 0, and 5. With my divisor, you have to do the opposite of that, so it's going to be a positive 3. So looking at this right here, what you're going to do is going to multiply your divisor with the coefficients of each of the numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 2 times 3 is going to give me a 6. From the 6, notice that you are going to, actually, I'm sorry, you're going to bring the 2 down. 3 times 2 is going to give you the 6. And then instead of subtracting, like we did over here with long division, you just simply add them. So negative 7 plus 6 gives me a negative 1. And then from here, you're going to go ahead and take the divisor again, which is 3, times by the negative 1, which gives you a negative 3. You're going to add this. Do not distribute the negative. Do not subtract. 0 minus 3 gives me a negative 3. 3 times negative 3 is a negative 9. 5 minus 9 gives me a negative 4. This right here is going to be a remainder. You're going to start off with these numbers, 2, negative 1, negative 3. And you're going to reduce the exponent by 1 power. So cube, reduce it down, gives you a square. So 2x squared minus 1x minus 3, your remainder is a negative 4. Okay, and if you look at this right here, this is exactly the same as what we had here with long division, except it's just synthetic division. Personally, on a personal preference, I prefer long division. Synthetic division is fine. It's just a little bit more, I feel like you have to memorize more of the tricks rather than doing anything else. All right, so now that you have seen both of them at work, if you want to see like better writing, I do have it typed up right here so it looks a little bit better. I want you guys to go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and focus on the 4 matching questions right here. That is part of your guided notes. And to help you out, here are the answers that you can go ahead and match them. If you do need help with the steps, I do have this link right here, capital W, capital B, capital X, that will actually give you guys the steps to this. And if you click on that link, this is what it will look like, okay? And you can go ahead and take a look how things are broken down. Okay. If you do need more assistance review, do use the link that I have right here on pre-calculus trig. When I was teaching pre-calculus and trig, this is the link that I have my students use for this. And when you click on that link, this is what you will see. These are all the skills that you need to master from pre-calculus and trigonometry for heading into calculus. So the first topic we talked about is graphing piecewise functions, identifying domain and range, finding the x and y intercept algebraically. I do have videos, Quizlet practice, additional reading assignments for you guys. Next is identifying even and odd, which we talked about yesterday. Next, after that, algebraically identifying if the function reflects on the x, y axis or origin, which we also talked about yesterday. Today, it is about conversion of point slope form to slope intercept form and standard form and general form. Writing the equation of a line with parallel perpendicular lines when given 2 points, which we talked about. Factor trinomial with a coefficient greater than 1. We also discussed that earlier this week. Factoring cubes, factoring cube sum and differences, which we also went over. Long division, synthetic division, which we talked about. Composite function algebraically, f of g of x. Remember that, like fog and goff. We'll talk about that in the upcoming days. Being able to use a TI-84 calculator, being able to graph a line, find the zeros, x, y intercepts, use a second calculus x value option to find f of x when inserting an x value. And last one, solving trig equations, identifying trig identities, trig inverses, etc. So you do have that link available to you if you do need assistance. Capital P, capital W, capital J, capitalization does matter. If you do have questions about Math Excel and you need assistance, please take a snapshot of the question and then email it to me. I do check my emails regularly. Go ahead and take a moment and review the trig formula sheets. I know a lot of students in the previous classes had difficulty with the unit circle. Unfortunately, they will not be giving you the unit circle on the AP exam. It is expected that you actually memorize that. But I do have some links over here to help you with the formula, summer review, etc., to get yourself prepared for calculus. All right, let's go ahead and get started with today's notes. This is the first page of your notes. So with that said, here we go. When you're graphing a line, there are two things that you need. The first thing you need is you need to start off with B, which is always going to be on the y-axis, followed by M, which is rise over run. So let's go ahead and go over these four examples. First one, we're going to be graphing this equation right here. Your B is going to be 1, and your slope is going to be 2. So I'm going to start off with 1 on the y-axis. I'm going to go up 2 over 1, second dot, up 2 over 1, third point, up 2 over 1, and then here is my line. Second equation, y equals 2. So this is going to be a horizontal line. And remember we talked about slopes with horizontal line. Your slope, what just happened? Your slope is always going to be 0. So go up 2. Here is my line. This one here is actually in standard form or maybe general form. You need to put this in slope-intercept form. So I want to isolate the y. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have 3y equals negative x plus 6. You want to divide it by 3 on everything. So y equals a negative 1/3 x plus 2. In which case your b is 2. Your slope is negative 1 over 3. So let's start at 2. It's getting a little bit crowded here. Go down 1 over 1, 2, 3 is your second point. Down 1 over 1, 2, 3, your third point. And then you just connect the dots. And that's how you graph the line. Okay, come up with an example in a graph of the following forms: general, vertical line, horizontal line, point slope form, slope intercept form. So you can pause the video. Okay, make the notation when it's appropriate to use the equation. If you take a look at right here, there's a summary of the equations of lines. This is general. A, B, and C are everything else on the left side. It's set equal to 0. This is great for factoring. Vertical line, horizontal line, point slope form, slope intercept form. You should be able to use those 5 interchangeably. Next, I want you to go ahead and talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. What is an example of a parallel line? What is an example of a perpendicular line? How are they different and similar? You can pause the video, maybe draw a picture showing me. Okay, first one is a parallel line. Why? Because they're like railroad tracks. They have the same slope. These two lines are not going to get closer or further apart. Second one over here is going to be a perpendicular. Big one is that it is creating a 90-degree angle, and also they're negative reciprocals. So if my first slope is 1 over 3, my perpendicular slope is going to be, you just take the 1 over 3, you flip it, and then you put a negative to it. So it's a negative 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little practice. I have 2 examples right here. Are these perpendicular, parallel, or neither? So let's take a look at the first one, okay? First one, obviously, in order to be parallel, they have to be the same slope. So obviously not parallel, but are they perpendicular? So what do you do is to take the first slope, you're gonna flip it, and put a negative to it. So does negative 2 over 1 equals negative 2? Yes, it does. So what is it? It is perpendicular. And that's a symbol for that. Second one, are they parallel? No, because they're not the same. So what do? You take the first one, flip it, which gives you a negative 1 over 2. But then you have to put a negative to it, what makes it positive. Is it the same? Nope. So it's not parallel, not perpendicular. It is going to be neither in that case. Example 4. Find the general form of the equation of the line that passes through this and it's parallel to this line. Okay, so here are your steps. We're going to go ahead and first find the slope of this equation. So in which case you have to solve for y. So you have to convert this from standard form to slope-intercept form. So I'm going to isolate the y. I have negative 3y equals negative 2x plus 5. Divide everything by a negative 3. Y equals a positive 2/3 x minus 5 over 3. My slope is going to be parallel to this, so it's going to be exactly the same slope. So my slope, the parallel symbol, is 2/3. It's also given to me that my x value is a 2 and my y value is a negative 1. So last time I used slope-intercept form, now I'm going to use point slope form to find my equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay, let's substitute all the given values into this. I have y minus negative 1, which will be a positive 1. My slope that I just found is 2/3, x minus 2. Now, you want to distribute this, so I have y plus 1 equals 2/3 x minus 2 times 2 is a 4 with a 3. Subtract the 1 on both sides. If I subtract the 1 on both sides, my 1 cancels, but it's a negative 1 over 1. And going back to elementary school with common denominators, if I change this denominator to a 3, top becomes a 3 as well. So y equals 2/3 x. Negative 4 minus 3 is a negative 7 over 3. And this is my equation. This is a line that is parallel to this line. Okay, example 4, part B. So here it says I want to find the equation that is going to be perpendicular to this. So I also have my x and y right here. And again, I need to go ahead and find or solve this for y. So I have negative 3y equals a negative 2x plus 5 divided by negative 3 on everything. Y equals 2/3 x minus 5/3. Now, last time it was parallel, so it was exactly the same, but because this one is going to be perpendicular, you got to flip this and put a negative sign to it. So that is a slope that I'm going to be using that's perpendicular. So last time I used point slope form. This time, let's go ahead and use y-intercept form, which is y is equal to mx plus b. My y value given to me from the equation is a negative 1. Slope is a 2/3. My x is a 2 plus b. Distribute this, we're multiplying it out, 4/3 plus b. I want to subtract 4/3 on both sides, so I have a negative 1 minus 4 over 3. And again, fraction comes into play. You have a 1 right there. But if I have common denominators, I will move that to a 4, which means b is equal to negative 4 minus 4, which is a negative 8 over 3. Now that I have this, my equation is going to be y is equal to my slope, which is negative 3 over 2, x minus 8 over 3. And this is my equation. Now, for kicks and giggles, let's just go ahead and try to graph this and see if it is perpendicular. So this is my original equation, okay? Negative 5 over 3 is going to be like right here somewhere. Go up to 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3, up 2 over 1, 2, 3. Keep in mind that this is not drawn 100% to scale, but I'm just checking this, so it's okay. Negative 8 over 3 is going to be like right over here. And then I'm going to go down 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3 over 2. 1, 2, 3 over 2. So if you take a look at the two lines right here, they do create a 90-degree. So it is indeed perpendicular. And that's one way that you can check. All right, that is basically it for this lesson. You are welcome to go ahead and do some additional practices that I have given you. So today, just as a summary, we went over long division, synthetic division, 2 different ways of dividing polynomials. In addition to that, we went over parallel perpendicular lines and the different summary of equations of line with different forms. Have a great day, you guys. See you next time.